today about cognitive dissonance, and I'm so sorry for my earlier technical difficulties. This will probably be a shorter video than you're used to. I will do my best, dear ones. I will do my best. So I want to read a letter that I received, and it's an awesome letter, if I do say so myself, and I think that a lot of us will actually benefit from this letter. So she writes, "Dear Lisa, thank you for the live streams. I'm learning so much. I wanted to know if you could explain more about cognitive dissonance. I've heard other teachers talk about it, but I always end up confused. I enjoy your easy way of explaining tough material. I understand cognitive dissonance means a person is holding two conflicting beliefs in their head at one time. Can you help me understand this dynamic? I believe the narc psychopath in my life fogged my brain up with cognitive dissonance, and that is part of the reason I was unable to take a stand with him sooner. Been there. A few years ago, a really charming psychopath entered my life. He swooped me in, complimented me, told me I was his everything, and before you ask, no, he did not know me. In fact, he told me he loved me even before we actually met. Yes, it's a long story. Anyway, as smart as I am, I fell for it. I thought, yes, this is what real love feels like. I felt drunk on love. Within 2 weeks, he was living in my condo with me. When we met, he said he had a job, but of course, when he moved in, he suddenly lost it. Oh my God. From there, it all went to hell. I threw him out about 6 months ago. I found out he had another life I knew nothing about, and that was the final straw. I have been binging on your videos ever since. The narc is gone, and so is a lot of my hard-earned money. I am not a stupid woman. In fact, I hold a master's degree in education. Is it possible I thought I was too smart to be taken advantage of? Could this also be cognitive dissonance? If I believed I was too smart to be taken advantage of, is this why, when I thought he was lying, I quickly dismissed it? I am glad he is gone, but never want to attract a narcissist or a psychopath into my life again. I just feel that the more I know about how my mind works, the better I'm able to protect my own divine inner child. I never deserve what happened to me. All I want to do now is to understand what happened in my mind so it never happens again. I love you. Trisha from Seattle." Trisha from Seattle, you are presenting with something that is very, very common. And those of us who are actually very highly intelligent and empathic those of us who have very high tolerances for pain, those of us who have a very high tolerance for drama in our lives. And this becomes an issue because for women and men who were raised thinking that love is supposed to be romantic and up and down and, just think of The Notebook, like so much drama. So many of us have grown up believing that that's what love is supposed to be like. It's supposed to be intoxicating. He's supposed to walk in the door and swoop us all off our feet. Thank you, freaking Walt Disney. I mean, how many of us grew up watching Cinderella and Snow White? And Sleeping Beauty. Hello. Cinderella didn't know Prince Charming, and Prince Charming didn't know Cinderella, but we were spoon-fed Cinderella and Snow White. And so this is part of what's been downloaded in the landscape of our brain. That's not our fault, that we associate all these romantic ideas with love. So I'm not surprised that, and listen, I've attracted a psychopath into my life too, and it was horrible. And him too. He was charming, he was intelligent. He was a predator. I see that now. I was a victim. I had a target on my back. I had high tolerance for drama because of my childhood. I had spent years thinking that relationships were supposed to be, intense and just the two of us, me and you against the world. That's what I grew up believing. And so when I met this psychopath, he presented as someone who was just into me, wanted to know what was going on in my head. That felt great. I felt seen. So those of us who grew up, and you don't have to grow up in a dysfunctional home to crave feeling seen. All you have to do is grow up feeling like you were invisible, like your parents didn't see you. Now, those of us who come from, most of you who follow my work have come from an abusive home to some degree, whether you are the adult child of an alcoholic, whether you are the adult child of a narcissistic parent, whether or not you grew up with parents, a mom who had BPD, or a dad who was a psychopath or a sociopath, you name it. So, you know, those of us who have come from those types of life experiences, and you're following my work, you understand cognitive dissonance probably more than someone else. And cognitive dissonance has been a part of your life probably more than it has someone who's come from a healthy home. So part of that reason is because we crave to feel seen. We want to feel seen. We have not felt seen as children. And this creates an issue because there's this need to feel seen. So when we are out and about, right, we have all these ideas of what love is, what romance is. So our antennas are out for, that type of a response to a man. So when we meet someone who's electrifying, our brain, our antennas go up like, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be. He's highly successful and he's handsome. And, for men, it's, heterosexual men, she's beautiful. She's this iconic female, she's what every man wants, every man wishes he could have. And so all these ideas, bing, 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 our brains go crazy thinking, yes, this is the person I want to be. And that goes back to what we were spoon-fed as children. So part of why we attract, I think, disordered people when we get older goes back to what we've learned about love in the first place. What is love? So then you have the added issue of feeling ignored and feeling like you have never been nurtured, like you're intensely hungry for this sense of feeling seen. So we have this idea of what love is, this idea of phantasmic love, intoxicating love, that's what love is supposed to be, that's what a relationship is supposed to be. And then we have on top of that this hunger to feel seen. Now, when it comes to, these are her words, she's saying a psychopath, I'm not. She's saying that her boyfriend was a psychopath. Trisha, if you're saying it, then he probably was. But people like us who come from dysfunctional homes, who have never felt seen, who have wondered if perhaps we were bad. You guys know my story. I believe that I was a bad little girl. And in my mind, I was incapable of doing anything good because I was bad. And I believed I was bad because I was told I was bad. I was called selfish. I was made fun of. God forbid someone asked me what I wanted for my birthday and I actually told them. We weren't allowed to tell people what we really wanted or what we really needed. That was seen as selfishness. So, we grow up feeling unworthy. And when no one asks you how you feel, or when someone is just they disregard your feelings about the things that they say, and these people are your parents and they're disregarding how you feel, then that creates this framework for a psyche or a being that believes that whatever it is bad and is unworthy, which creates this catastrophic chain of events that begins to happen when we're very little. I'm talking about energy blocks, I'm talking about stomach issues, heart issues, eczema, you name it. So many of us have suffered with various types of illnesses that that can be traced back to this sense that we're not good enough. And our body is a chemical factory and it should just be flowing, and it was designed to keep us alive. But we can't separate ourselves from anything. So if I love my mother and she calls me a little bitch, or she says you're an actress, or if I start to cry and she labels me an actress, oh, those are crocodile tears, oh, you just want attention. Yeah, I want attention. Yeah, you just made fun of me. I'm feeling wounded. I'm feeling alone. It's normal for a child to want to be comforted by their parents, or an adult. I mean, give me a break. But for those of us who came from those types of homes, what happens is all these ideas that we're receiving from the environment don't go unnoticed. They're getting downloaded into us. Now, I've said this over and over, how we perceive, our parents perceived us, is how we perceive ourselves. So the mirrors that we look into, our parents' eyes are actually mirrors. So when we look into our mother's eyes or our father's eyes, and we see disgust coming back, then we believe we are that disgust. There is literally we just absorb it. Whatever reflection is in our parents' eyes, we absorb. That becomes an imprint, or like a rubber stamp, a vibrational rubber stamp that takes hold, takes root in us. Now, we have to also understand we're trinities, right? We're mind, we're body, and soul. And we're not disconnected from everything. We are connected to everything in our environment. So when I feel unloved by my mother, then I believe that I am unlovable. So I'm starving for attention. When you come from a home where, you have been taught that you need to worry about what everybody else thinks, that sets you up for having a very high level of empathy for others. I came from a very rigid, strict Irish home. My mom's an adult child of an alcoholic. My father's the adult child of an alcoholic. My dad gambles. My mom's a severe codependent. We were treated like soldiers. Like we were like little soldiers as children. We were not carefree. Children are supposed to go about and be free and love and just have energy flow through their bodies. We're supposed to be able to jump into our father's laps and say, Daddy, I'm hurt. We're supposed to be able to jump into our mother's laps and say, Mommy, I'm afraid. But so many of us weren't able to do that. We were pushed away. We were taught that what we felt and what we thought was unimportant. It was ridiculous. All these ideas set us up for future abusers in our future lives, because we have these phantasmic ideas about what love is. We are starving for attention and affection and love. We're suffering from attachment traumas. We are wounded by these reflections of nothingness in our parents' eyes, which become our own personal feelings about self. And we can't escape this feeling of unworthiness that we bring with us. And here we are. Now, we've been taught to worry about what our parents think about us, so now our level of empathy goes up. For so many reasons, we have this high threshold for empathy. It was also a defensive mechanism. Like, if you grew up in a violent home, you had to be hypervigilant. You had to be able to see and observe and be on point with what was happening in your environment, so you didn't get your ass whooped, or you were trying to maybe please your father or please your mother, so you were looking for cues. How can I make them happy? Why? Because you're seeking that bond, and that is not your fault, dear one. It is absolutely natural and normal for children to want to feel bonded to their parents. And so little children need to feel this connection. I believe that children come incarnate flowing love. And they're constantly looking to have that love flown back into them. And when they feel pushed away, because their mother's an alcoholic or a narcissist or dad's an alcoholic or whatever's going on, when that love is unable to get flowed back into that child, there is an energetic loss there. And the brain perceives this loss and has to come up with reasons for this loss. Now, after the age of 4, when children are more cognitive, children will start assuming that the reason that there is this loss and this lack of love, and that they're not able to manipulate from their parents, right, which they shouldn't have to manipulate, the child's mind will presume it's them. The child is going to, in their mind, look for reasons to justify why, and there we go, cognitive dissonance. There are conflicting beliefs. I want love, but I don't feel worthy of love. So what does a child do? Child loves mommy, but can't hate mommy because mommy's her world. The child needs daddy, but can't hate daddy because daddy's the provider. So what does the brain do? The brain then takes this uncomfortableness when it comes to these two conflicting thoughts about love, and will come up with a reason to justify or at least satisfy the cognitive dissonance. When I was a little girl and, I had such an abrasive relationship with my mother, what I ended up doing was, I remember saying to myself, well, it's because your eyes are green. That's why she doesn't love you. because my mom had dazzling blue eyes, my sister had dazzling blue eyes, and my brother and my dad had light brown eyes. But I was the only one in the family that had green eyes. So when I was looking around at my family and everybody seemed to be getting along, I ended up in my head not understanding why they didn't love me. And so I wanted to be loved, but I felt unworthy to be loved, unworthy of love. And so what my brain did was says, well, you have green eyes and that's why you don't have love. And there was a little bit of relief from the experience. Still a difficult experience to experience, but at least there was some settling of, oh, okay, that's why they don't love me. It's all my fault. And we carry that type of thinking with us throughout our lifetimes. And so that's why I'm so really grateful for this letter that I got from Trisha. So, Trisha, the one thing that you asked me was, you said, you made mention that you are not a stupid woman. In fact, you hold a master's degree in education. And you wrote, is it possible I thought I was too smart to be taken advantage of? I think people, and I think women and men who have, attained a certain amount of success in their life, who find themselves married to abusive partners, oftentimes struggle with, how could this have happened? I'm a smart person. This should not have happened to me. I took psychology in college. I got a master's degree in psychology. I'm a clinical psychologist. How could I have attracted a psychopath or a narcissist or a sociopath? How could I wind up with an alcoholic who can't see me, who doesn't work, who's abusive? How could this have happened? So you raise a good question, and it is possible that, because you think that, you've studied psychology for so long, you're an educator, it's possible that you have this idea that, nah, it can't happen to me. So, and then when it happens to you, it's like, nah, this really can't be happening. Your brain is going to have these two conflicting ideas that perhaps, like I said earlier, he would never lie to me and I know that because I would never pick anybody who could lie to me because I'm so smart. And then all of a sudden, he says that, he was at work and you call work and they've never heard of him. And you're left with this clashing of these beliefs. So he doesn't lie, he just lied. What do you do with that? So what happens is, depending on what your value system is, if you're a codependent, let's say, and you fear being alone and you put a lot of value on this relationship, or if you have a lot of fear around being wrong, which so many, I know somebody who's personally who has so much fear around her second marriage ending that I watch her all day long come up with backwards justification and rationalizations for when her brain is holding two conflicting beliefs at one time. It's actually fascinating, and you can't talk her out of it. Very sad. But what happens is, let's say in that situation where he's not a liar, wait a minute, he just lied. Depending on where you are in the relationship and how much, in my opinion, how much pain you've already experienced, that will very much affect what happens after your brain experiences this cognitive dissonance. If you're married to or engaged with or dealing with a very good liar, and let's face it, psychopaths are habitual liars. Relationships are about the game, okay? So let's say it's in the beginning of the relationship where you're just starting to become aware of possible something doesn't line up. If he's a really good psychopath and a really good liar, he will be able to lie his way out of that lie. He'll say, oh, that's not what happened. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I don't know why you thought that. That's not what I said. I don't work there. That's not where I said I worked. I worked down the other place. I worked across the street from there. You walked into the wrong place. And now you're like hit with all these lies, and go back to the original desire is to believe that this romance that he sucked you into is real. So depending on where you are on that scale and how much bullshit you have had to go through, that will very much determine what the outcome is in that situation. So obviously the more time you spend with a psychopath or a narcissist or whatever, the more abuse you will experience. Hopefully you got to a point where enough was enough. I'm hoping that with the more information that's out there about psychopaths and sociopaths, narcissistic, abusive relationships, the more we talk about it, the more we understand the red flags, right, before we even go into the relationship. So I want to talk a little bit about, the other thing that I wanted to say about cognitive dissonance is, when you are experiencing brain lock or cognitive dissonance, right, you have two conflicting beliefs, they don't make sense. For instance, your husband says that, your best friend tells you that she just heard that your husband is sleeping with your sister. And there's cognitive dissonance. Who wants to believe that their husband is sleeping with their sister? Nobody. So we have this belief like, no, not my husband, that's my sister. And then there is this, we do a little bit of investigation work, and then we text our sister and she says, oh, Mark just left. So now Mark never said he was going to go there, but now why is Mark at my sister's house? And now I have this tidbit of information. You may experience some cognitive dissonance. I don't want to believe this is true. So what will happen is, in that situation, your mind's got a decision to make. There's a lot of tension in that moment. So to relieve that tension, you've either got to change something in your environment right away, or you've got to change the thought. So you can't hold the thought that he's lying to me or lying to you if that makes you really, really uncomfortable, because then you're going to have to confront this idea of an affair, and that could just produce a lot of pain inside of you. So you're going to have to come up with a thought that alleviates the possibility that the man that you love, that would never cheat on you, is actually might be cheating on you. So the one reality versus the reality you want to believe in collide. So you've got a choice. Your brain's got a choice to make. You've either got to confront your husband and confront your sister, sit their ass down and have a long ass talk with them and figure out what the hell is going on. And you snoop and snoop and snoop and snoop and snoop until you find out yes or no. And then you confront it and you make a decision about what you want to do. We don't sweep it under the rug. That's what we were taught to do as adult children of alcoholics. If we're not talking about it, it doesn't exist. Well, it does exist. It exists in your root chakra. It exists in your heart chakra. It exists in your throat chakra. That's why you can't tell your truth. You can't sleep. It exists. Just because you're not talking about it, you're not looking at it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, the other choice is that you change the thought about the conflict in the beliefs. So, a woman who, let's face it, we've all been there where we weren't ready to confront the conflict in our minds about our spouses or our boyfriends or our lovers, whatever, or our children even. So we've all been there, we all understand that. So let's take an enabling mother, for instance, who, her son says he's clean, he's not doing heroin anymore, and she wants to believe that. So her belief is, my son is clean, he's not doing heroin anymore, and then she is doing the laundry and a pack of heroin falls out of his jean pocket. So there's a conflict. He's doing heroin. No, I don't want to do heroin. He's doing heroin. So depending on where the mom is in her recovery and how able she is to confront things in the moment, which is why I teach the 1, 2, 3 process. And you can find that, you can research that in my YouTube videos. I talk about that in my programs, and I think the Codependent Now What's Not You, It's Your Programming book. However, getting back to mom. So oftentimes what moms will do will say, oh, that's probably from a long time ago. And now suddenly the conflict has been alleviated and she feels freer in her being for the moment until the next time. So I hope that helps explain a little bit more about cognitive dissonance and how it works. And if you are with someone long enough that and you're experiencing these types of problems in a relationship where your reality is not matching up with what he says or what you believe to be true, the more you don't confront it with behavior, the more you don't confront it, the more your brain is going to be literally chopped up into little pieces. Your brain will become mashed potatoes. So this channel and what I'm all about is truth, because the truth sets you free, even if it's effing ugly. That doesn't mean the truth doesn't hurt. The truth hurts when it comes out. Those of you who have taken my program and are in my program now, I honor you and namaste. when you get in touch with your pain, it is painful. Truth is painful. And when you start tapping into all this stored negative energy and all these stored negative ideas about who you think you are, which is based on your experiences from childhood, and none of us should think we're anything but angels, okay? None of us should think that we're anything but divinity, because that's what we are. And those of us who think we're any less than that, somebody screwed up. That's a true sin. A sin means to miss the mark. And many of our parents have missed the mark. They have led us to believe that we're not good enough. Now we walk around thinking that we're bad, we're not good enough, we weren't good, and that all the abuse we experienced in our childhood was our fault. So when we believe that things are our fault, guess what? We almost feel like being punished for it makes sense. So we almost feel like, oh, it's good that I don't have that because I'm a bad little girl. Well, I really don't deserve that because I was a bad little girl. It's almost like we are punishing ourselves for things that we should not be punishing ourselves for because we truly feel unworthy. It is like when you punish yourself, it's almost satisfying. So, and it's twisted, but it's true. You know, when we don't allow ourselves to enjoy life, when we hold back, this is the way we reinforce this idea that we deserve to be punished because we weren't good, or we're not good, or we're not worthy. So that's a lot of meat to chew on that bone, and I hope you guys chew on that one. I wanted to go back to what Trisha said. She said, a few years ago, a really charming psychopath entered my life. He swooped me in, complimented me, told me I was his everything. And before you ask, because I always ask my clients, how long did you know him before you said he loved you? You know? So she goes right ahead and she says, no, he did not know me. In fact, he told me he loved me even before we met. So I'm presuming that they met online, Tinder, or whatever the hell else, these dating apps that are out there. And, you know, my son is dating somebody from Instagram, you know, and he's supposedly never met her. You know, okay, you know, but there are lots of ways to meet people, and dating apps are out there. This is what people are doing today. So more than likely, Trisha met this guy online. They started talking, and before they even met, he said he loved her. So dear ones, I want you to understand that that is a huge red flag. So what your life coach would like to do today is help you redefine and reframe what you think love is. Okay? So love, before you, especially if you have high empathy, if you're a woman that's got very low tolerance for bullshit, you're probably good. You know, you're probably good. Like, you look at men like very realistically. You know, you do what I had to learn to do, which is interview people, see if they are who they say they are, see if they say things before they should. In other words, you know, if someone says they love you and they don't know you, that's a red flag. That is an absolute red flag. So what I want to do is I want to help anybody out there who is struggling with looking for a relationship. And the next question is all about that. Somebody is struggling to look for a relationship and what he could actually do to, here it is, his name is Jeffrey, and what Jeffrey can actually do to help maintain relationships. So I want to challenge all of you out there, and I want you to understand that there have even been studies done that prove that, I know the studies have been done with women, I'm not so sure men, but there are studies have been done that prove that women that have high tolerances of empathy for other people tend to attract psychopaths. Now, it's important that you understand that if you are an empath, if you're a codependent, that you're probably very highly empathic, right? You have a lot of empathy for other people. You've got to understand that that makes you a target for a predator, because a predator needs somebody who has a lot of empathy, because that's the tool they use to manipulate you into feeling sorry for them, so that you cannot pay attention to, so you will not pay attention to how you're feeling. Your experience of them gets annihilated. You are just literally this backdrop that he is shooting darts at. That's it, you know, or paintball gun at. Literally, that's what's happening. A psychopath is looking for a target that he can shoot at, manipulate at, turn upside down, turn this way, turn that way, say whatever he wants to say, and there are female psychopaths out there too, not just men. Okay, we need to clarify that too. So if you are someone who finds yourself feeling like you always worry about other people, I am a mush, okay? And I am naturally empathic. I have such deep empathy that I have to work on creating boundaries so that I don't get sucked into other people's dramas. And it's something that I had to learn to do, especially as a life coach, because people are speaking to me about their deepest, darkest secrets and their wounds, and I've got to be able to be this kind of beacon of hope and beacon of light and radiate to my clients and to all of you on YouTube also this idea that the power to heal really is within you. And so it's very important that I developed boundaries, and I'm so grateful that I have. So we have to understand that because we have high empathy, we are targets, okay? So imagine you see a sea of people, and let's say you're looking at 500 people, and let's say, I don't know, let's say 30 of them have high empathy compared to the rest of the people. You must understand, dear one, you literally have a bullseye on your back. A predator is going to be able to pick you out. So, and someone who's, let's say an empath in the crowd is somebody who puts money in the jar of somebody who's homeless, right? An empath in the crowd is somebody who is smiling at a little baby that she just passed or he just passed in a stroller. An empath is someone who's rubbing the shoulder of her child or his child. An empath is someone who is deeply intense, you know, looking at the face of another person that he or she is talking to. An empath is somebody who is comfortable touching other people's shoulders. And these, now, if you think about these, look at the next time you're out and about at a crowded mall perhaps, look out into your environment. You will be able to see the people who have high empathy compared to the people who don't. So you have a guy walking down this crowded mall, right? And he just ate some at the food court, and he's got these big shopping bags in his left hand, and they're knocking into old ladies that are walking by him, and he's got a toothpick in his mouth, and he's talking, and he's looking at the meat that he just pulled out of his teeth, and there are hundreds of people around him. That's not an empath. No psychopath is going to mark him and want to spend time with him. He could give a shit less about who he's bumping into, right? He could give a shit less about who's seeing him pick his teeth after he just ate. Now, his wife or his kids who are staring at daddy, wishing daddy wasn't doing that. The wife that is looking around the mall wondering who's looking at him. She is concerned about what other people think. She's a mark. And that's why she's with this banana. So you've got to be able to see and identify traits in yourself that you need to protect. Now, if you appreciate that, that will help you. Now, when you're meeting someone, and it's almost time for the live stream to be over, but if you know, I'll get to these questions next week. So if you know that you have a high tolerance of pain because of your childhood, you have to appreciate that. If you know that you have high empathy for other people, you have to appreciate that. If you know that you're a people pleaser, you have to identify that in yourself. If you know that you are highly compassionate, you have to identify that. If you've been married once, twice, 3 times to people who have abused you, you have to identify with that reality and understand that the traits that you have, which are beautiful traits, but they are traits that will make you a target for someone who wants to take advantage of you. Now that you know that, when you step into the dating arena, now you're armed. You know, I have high empathy, so I've got to pay attention to what this man or this woman is actually sharing right now. You know, that wasn't so funny, and he is like falling off his chair laughing. Like, what's up with that? You know, he said he knows about horses, and I just brought up that I used to ride horses, and he doesn't seem to know much about them. So you have to understand that a sociopath or a psychopath or a narcissist is going to want to mirror. He becomes a mirror to you. Everything that you say, he says. Everything that you like, he likes. Everything that she likes, everything that you like, she likes. So pay attention. This is the way they're trying to manipulate you. They're trying to get inside of your skin. So, if there's a fly on the wall, it's really easy to identify the fly and swat it, right? But if the fly was inside your being, you would hear the buzzing and you'd be uncomfortable, but you wouldn't be able to identify where it was because it's in you. And that's the way sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists work. They want to be in you. And what better way to get in you than through your heart space? Open, making you pliable, appealing to everything that you love. So if you are a highly empathetic person and you have high compassion, just identify that. That's awesome. And that's really going to help you in the right relationship. But you have to attract somebody who has the same characteristics. And when you do, it is like twin flames. It's awesome. Everything's beautiful. It may not, and we have to get past this idea that relationships are supposed to be highly dramatic. Relationships are supposed to be beautiful and soft. And I've said this before, like the love that you have for a pet, it's just there. You just know that this person loves you. You just know that this dog adores you. She'll fight for you. She's your companion. I am so fortunate that I've been able to manifest that type of relationship. And I don't say this to brag. I say this to inspire you. I was a narcissist, or I was a psychopathic magnet. And guess what, dear ones? I thought I knew everything after I got divorced the first time. I thought, my relationship was codependent. I really thought it was him and me and this dynamic that showed up between us that was the issue. Turns out, like what Trisha went through, nothing could have been further from the truth. Because I had this belief that the relationship was the problem, I didn't know that the problem was me. And so the first person that I attracted outside my marriage, who I would say, if not a psychopath, sociopath, absolutely scary guy, very scary guy. But I think in my head, because I thought that the relationship with my first husband was the problem, not me, I wasn't sure about what was happening in the second relationship. In fact, I thought, but I know what my problem is, and I know I'm not codependent anymore, so what's happening in this relationship? I didn't trust myself. And then after that relationship, that didn't last too long, but then I ended up attracting a psychopath. I mean, a legitimate psychopath, like criminal, like should be in jail psychopath. And charming and intelligent, you name it. So that's when I tell you guys, that's when I was like, I'm done. It's me. There's something wrong with me. And it was. It all went back to my codependency. It all went back to me not feeling like I was good enough. It all went back to me experiencing an attachment trauma. It all went back to me attracting a certain type of personality in my life. And I believe that I was attracting men on the narcissistic scale because my father's on the narcissistic scale, in my humble opinion. And it took me a long time to figure that out, but I figured it out, and this is where I am today. So thank you so much. I hope that you learned a little bit today, and you're a little bit clearer about what cognitive dissonance is, and about why children from abusive homes, those of us who come from alcoholic homes, narcissistic homes, addictive homes, BPD homes, homes where there was lots of domestic violence, or homes where we were that's the other issue I did want to talk about, was so many of you write me and say, Lisa, but my mom was there. Lisa, my dad was there. Lisa, my mother did take care of me. But did you feel seen? And when I say seen, and I've been talking about this sense of feeling seen for a long time. I mean, I started writing my book, it's got to be 15 years ago, and I was talking about it then. You have to feel psychologically, emotionally, authentically seen on a heart level. Don't pay attention to the size of your house. Don't pay attention to whether or not two parents raised you. Don't focus on that. Don't focus on the 3 meals a day. Focus on how you felt in relationship to your parents. Did they make you feel seen? Did you feel authentically connected to? Did you believe that you were worthy of their love? Did you feel like they wanted to know you? Did you feel free enough to go and sit on their lap and talk to them about your pain? Were the rules in your home fair? Were you allowed to talk about your feelings? Were your siblings triangulated or not? Were all your siblings treated the same? Or was one the golden child? Were you the scapegoat child? Was there alcohol in the home? Were there drugs in the home? I have one client who struggles because her father was a happy drunk and mom was a codependent. And she's struggling to understand that there was abuse in that. Because when dad's drunk, he's not connecting to his kids. And when mom is smiling on cue and her cognitive dissonance is going, batty, and she doesn't want the babies to understand daddy's drunk, she's got these conflicting ideas about her reality. She's not seeing her children. She's not showing up for her children. It's not her fault because this is probably what happened to her. But we as the children who are trying to evolve our consciousness consciously, we are taking our consciousness and our ability to evolve our consciousness and become one, to become truly integrated mind, body, and soul, so that we can connect to the divinity, the creator within us, whoever and whatever creator is. For those of us who are choosing to walk the path that so many don't even know exists, we have to understand what happened to us. We have to be able to pin the tail on the donkey. We have to be able to say, yes, that happened to me. Yes, that is my pain. Yes, I used to feel that way. Yes, I never felt worthy. Yes, I felt like a bad girl. Yes, I felt this way. Yes, and it hurt. We've got to be able to acknowledge our wounds, not because we want to persecute other people. That's not what this work is about. This work, again, dear ones, is all about the truth. The truth does set you free. But the truth does not always mean that as the truth is actually coming through your body, that it's not painful. In fact, it's extremely painful. There's a lot of toxicity that we've locked inside our bodies that we need to learn to free. But ultimately, truth does free your body. And it's beautiful, but it's a process. Thank you, dear ones, for joining me today, and I'm sorry for any technical difficulties that you and I experienced, and we're working on it. Namaste.